Manual transmissions don't matter anymore. Yeah, I'm a car guy who thinks they're dumb, but why? The truth is, manuals are overhyped. They used to mean something, but now they're just a statement piece. They're not offered for practicality anymore, only for bragging rights. Look at me, I'm saving the manual. I'm so pure, all while never leaving the Walmart parking lot. Today, I'm breaking down why it's okay to let go of the manual transmission dream, why the hype isn't worth it anymore, and why the car community needs to stop treating them like they're the holy grail of driving. So first, how did we get here? Well, manuals used to be the only option. For decades, if you drove a car, you shifted your own gears. It wasn't about fun, it was just how cars worked back then. Manuals were practical, efficient, and gave you control, especially when engines were weaker and gear ratios mattered. Then automatics started creeping in. Early automatics were slow and clunky, so enthusiasts ignored them, but they were convenient for everyday drivers. By the 70s and 80s, automatics improved drastically. Better gearing, smoother shifts, fewer mistakes, and less strain in traffic. Suddenly, convenience outweighed control for the majority of people. By the 1990s and 2000s, manuals became a niche. Most cars only offered them in base models or performance trims, while the mainstream world moved to automatics. Manuals stopped being practical for daily driving. Traffic, commuting, and convenience made them a hassle. At the same time, manuals got hyped up. Car enthusiasts, internet forums, and real driver culture became glorifying stick shifts as the only way to be a true car guy. Manuals became more of a badge of identity than a tool. Saving the manual became a thing, not because they were necessary, but because they were cool in theory. Today, that's a situation. Manuals aren't practical anymore, but the hype keeps them alive. They're no longer default, they're the retro option, the bragging rights choice. But the truth is, the world moved on while the obsession stayed. And now we get to today, with the so-called Save the Manual movement. You know who I mean. People online acting like manual transmissions are the ultimate sign of purity, the only way to be a real driver, the holy grail of car culture. And here's the kicker, most of them have never even driven a car. They're keyboard warriors typing about how manuals are dying, but they've never touched a clutch in their life. They're just 12-year-olds who haven't even sat behind a steering wheel, claiming that if manuals disappear, car culture itself will die. Meanwhile, they've never driven stick outside of Forza, but somehow they're the moral authority on manuals. And while this crowd rants online, look at the reality. Manuals today are a dying breed. There are only a handful of cars left that offer a stick, and most of them are already niche or enthusiast focused. Miatas, Civics, and a few Mustangs. That's basically it. Even those are completely outperformed by automatics. That's the truth no one wants to admit. And yet, the internet treats manuals like they're some endangered species that need saving. They cry, save the manual, keep driving pure cars, but in reality, most new cars are okay with automatics. They're faster, smoother, and easy to enjoy without constantly worrying about stalling in traffic. Manuals aren't being killed by some corporate conspiracy, they're being killed by practicality and the world moving on, and by the fact that most people just don't want them anymore. So yeah, go ahead and scream about manuals online. Go ahead, make a post about how the manual is the soul of driving, but in real life, manuals are already a niche hobby, not a necessity. The people screaming the loudest about saving the manuals are often the ones least qualified to talk about it. And meanwhile, the handful of remaining cars that still offer them, they're treated like treasures, but honestly, they're just relics. Fun? Sure. Necessary? Not even close. The point is, manuals aren't sacred. They're not going to save car culture. They're a part of history, a skill, or a toy for enthusiasts, and that's it. The rest of the world moved on, and people crying the loudest are clinging to nostalgia and not reality. Now, let's go over here. People love to act like automatics are for lazy drivers or normies, but that's nonsense. From a real enthusiast standpoint, modern automatics are better than manuals in almost every way. Shifts are faster, and more precise than any human could ever manage consistently. On the track, dual clutch or high-end automatics will leave a manual in the dust. No missed shifts, no stalling, no wasted time. Just pure control and focus on driving the way the car was meant to be driven. But here's the thing, manuals can still be fun. And if you master the skill, you could even beat automatics. Nothing beats the feeling of grabbing a clutch, perfectly rev matching, and throwing a car around a corner just the way you want it. It's tactile, it's engaging. It's a skill that some people genuinely enjoy. And the best part, you don't need to cry about manuals disappearing from new cars. There are still 34 cars in production that offer a manual, and that's actually more than people realize, including affordable options. Beyond that, the used car market is full of manuals if you really want one. Classics, older sports cars, or even lightly used fun cars, you can still find something that puts you behind the stick without paying a fortune. The point is, manuals aren't dead, they're just no longer essential. You can enjoy a manual if you want, but you don't need to make it a crusade. Automatics don't take away from driving enjoyment, they actually make it easier to focus on driving well, hitting performance limits, and enjoying the car without fighting traffic or stalling. So if you're upset about manuals dying, calm down. They're still here. You just don't need to treat them like they're the most important part of car culture. They're fun, they're still available, but they're a fun choice, not a requirement. And here's the irony. Manuals used to be the default, the practical way to drive a car. Now, they're basically a hype accessory. People buy them not because they want the experience, not because they need the control, but because it makes them look like a real enthusiast. It's ridiculous. Manuals aren't even being sold for actual enthusiasts anymore. They're being offered to wealthy buyers who want to claim, look at me, I'm pure, a true car guy. You know the type, sitting in his $70,000 sports car, manual stick in hand, pretending they're somehow carrying the torch of car culture while their parents' credit card does all the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, the people who actually appreciate manuals, the ones who grew up learning stick in traffic, stalling on hills, and real driving skills, don't even care. They enjoy what they drive and don't give a crap about the automatic takeover. Manuals are no longer mainstream or practical. They're a status symbol, a badge of authenticity that's more for show and less fun. So the truth is hilarious. The very thing that used to be everyday and essential is now a luxury flex. And what's sad is that enthusiasts who don't drive a manual are constantly labeled as fake or untrue car enthusiasts. It's honestly ridiculous. My friend drives a Prius. Yeah, it's not fast, it's not manual, it's not even trying to be sporty, but he genuinely loves cars. He knows more about the history of car design, engine layouts, and mechanical engineering more than half the people calling themselves true enthusiasts. He helps people with their cars and appreciates the culture. Yet somehow, because his transmission shifts automatically, he's not a real driver. That's the kind of dumb logic that's taken over car culture lately. People act like owning a manual transmission automatically makes you a better driver or a more dedicated car guy. Like, congratulations, you've watched a YouTube tutorial and think you could drive stick. It's become this weird badge of honor that people used to feel superior. Meanwhile, those same people that berate my friends sit in their stance Civics, scraping over every speed bump and talking down to anyone that drives something practical. They'll say, real enthusiasts drive manuals, but their definition of enthusiast is so shallow it's laughable. True people appreciate driving, all kinds of driving, not just one transmission type. Whether it's a manual, automatic, CVT, whatever it is, it's about the experience, the passion, and the connection you have with the car. The gearbox doesn't define that, the driver does. Manuals have become less about dying and more about ego. Manuals aren't really dead, they're just not what they used to be, and that's okay. They're fun if you want them, and they're still available both new and used. But they're no longer the defining factor of car culture. Automatics have caught up and in many ways surpassed them, making driving easier, faster, and just as enjoyable. The hype around manuals now, mostly ego, nostalgia, and online posturing. If you love them, grab one. If you don't care. It doesn't make you any less of a car enthusiast. Manuals were a chapter in automotive history, not the whole story. What do you think? Do you still think manuals define an enthusiast car as fun, or is it finally time to let them go? I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and remember people, drive safe, drive smart, but most importantly, drive something worth talking about. See you in the next one.